Welcome back to our channel, English with Ethan. In this video, you'll see the story of a normal person, just like you. He didn't speak English. He didn't feel confident. He didn't grow up with English around him. But he wanted to change his life. Not just by learning English, but by making it a real part of his life. This is the story of Daniel, and it might remind you of yourself. Let's begin. Part 1. The realization. I can't escape English. Daniel was 24 years old. He lived in a small city and worked as a delivery driver. Every day, he listened to music on his motorbike, delivered food to homes and offices, and came home tired. He didn't care much about English. It's just a school subject, he used to think. I don't need it in my life. But slowly, things began to change. One day, he delivered food to a company office. A foreign client was there. The receptionist tried to call him over. Hey, could you ask the delivery guy where this order is from? Daniel stood still, frozen. He understood the question, but his mouth didn't move. From restaurant. The client smiled kindly, but it felt like the longest 5 seconds of Daniel's life. When he left the building, he felt small. Why couldn't I speak? I knew what they said. Why did I feel so useless? That night, Daniel didn't sleep well. He kept thinking, the world is changing. People speak English everywhere now. Music, movies, job interviews, websites, work. And for the first time in his life, Daniel said, maybe I can't escape English, so maybe I should invite it in. Not a subject, a language for life. The next day, Daniel went for a walk. He looked at the world differently. He saw shop signs in English. He heard kids watching English cartoons. He heard people using English words in daily talk. Okay, sorry, meeting, delivery, and cancel. It was everywhere. And then he thought, if English is already around me, why don't I bring it closer? Why not make it part of my life, not just my exam? This was the turning point. He wasn't thinking like a student anymore. He was thinking like a speaker. His new mission, 15 minutes a day. That night, Daniel didn't open a grammar book. He didn't watch a lesson on tenses. He did something simple. He picked up his headphones and searched. English podcast for beginners. He found a slow, friendly story. He listened to the voice. It was gentle, clear, relaxing. And for 15 minutes, Daniel just listened. No stress, no test, no fear, just English, as a part of life. The next day, he played English songs in the background while making tea. He changed his phone settings to English. He followed one English page on social media. He didn't study. He just invited English into his day. His new thought. English lives with me now. Daniel told himself, English is not my guest anymore. It's my roommate. It eats with me, walks with me, sleeps beside me. It's in my music, in my phone, in my mirror. That simple mindset changed everything. It wasn't about how much he studied. It was about how often English showed up in his daily life. And now, it was showing up everywhere. That evening, Daniel stood in front of the mirror. He smiled and said out loud, English, you're in my life now, and I'm not letting you go. He didn't speak fluently, but for the first time, he felt free from fear. Because now, English wasn't a test. It was a friend. And it was home. Part 2. The Daily Life Plan. How Daniel added English into every hour. He stopped seeing English as a subject and started seeing it as a daily companion. He played podcasts while cooking, listened to songs while walking, and changed his phone settings to English. But now he wanted to go further. Not just listen to English. He wanted to live in it, fully, every day. This part is about how Daniel created a simple, powerful English life plan, and how you can copy it today. Daniel's new rule: don't study English, live it. One morning, Daniel sat down with a notebook. He wrote one big sentence in bold letters. I don't want to study English. I want to live with English. He looked at his life. He didn't have much time. He worked 8 to 10 hours a day, 6 days a week. He didn't have money for classes. He didn't have friends who spoke English. But he had two things: a hungry mind and 24 hours, just like everyone else. So he made a decision. I will create a daily plan where English is everywhere, without stress. The Daily English Life Plan. Simple and powerful. Daniel's plan wasn't about pressure. It was about presence. Let's look at how he added English into his daily routine, step by step. Morning, 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. Daniel woke up early and made tea. While brushing his teeth, he said in English, I'm brushing my teeth. I feel a little sleepy, but today will be a good day. He started talking to himself in English, just simple thoughts. While making breakfast, he played a short English podcast. He didn't stop to understand every word. He just listened, smiled, and let the rhythm enter his brain. Then he opened a small notebook and wrote 2 sentences. Today, I will try to speak one new sentence in English. I will keep learning with joy. That was it. 10 minutes. No grammar, just confidence. During work, delivery time. Daniel used his motorbike time wisely. He downloaded 3 English listening stories on his phone. While riding, he listened to them again and again. Each time, he understood a little more. He also played songs and repeated lines he liked. Don't be afraid. Just take the first step. It became his mental training time. His road was his classroom. At red lights, he would whisper short phrases. Can I help you? What would you like? This is your order. He wasn't speaking to anyone, but he was training his mouth, and his mouth was becoming stronger every day. Lunch break, 2 p.m. During his break, Daniel used 15 minutes to scroll an English Instagram page. He read small phrases like, believe in yourself. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to begin. Every day is a new chance to grow. He read slowly, out loud, and he felt the meaning in his heart. Sometimes he wrote one line in his notebook and added a personal thought. Quote, speak even if your voice shakes. Daniel wrote, yes, I feel scared, but I will speak. This was more than English. This was emotion in English, and that made it unforgettable. Evening time, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. After finishing work, Daniel didn't watch long grammar videos. He chose one small English story video on YouTube, no subtitles. First, he watched. Then, he watched again and repeated some sentences. If he liked a line, he copied it in his mirror practice. Life is full of second chances. Never give up on yourself. He stood in front of the mirror and said it like an actor. He used his hands. He changed his voice. He made English feel alive. And the best part? He started to enjoy it. It felt like a friend talking back to him. Night routine, 10 p.m. Before sleeping, Daniel did one simple thing. He opened his notebook and wrote one sentence about his day, one thing he did in English, one English word he liked today. Example: today I delivered 27 orders. I listened to an English story about a farmer. My favorite word was peaceful. Then he whispered, good night, Daniel. You lived in English today. Well done. And he slept. Why this plan worked. Daniel didn't spend 2 hours every day, but every hour he spent 2 minutes with English, and those small moments built a wall, brick by brick. Most learners quit because they try to do too much. But Daniel grew because he did a little everywhere. He lived his life in English, not in a textbook. Daniel's 3 powerful reminders for you. Before we end part 2, here are 3 things Daniel learned from this system. 1. Your environment speaks before you do. If your phone, music, thoughts, and notes are in English, your mouth will follow. 2. It's not about time. It's about touch. You don't need 3 hours a day. You just need to touch English again and again and again. 3. No pressure. Just presence. Don't try to master grammar in one day. Just show up. Even 5 minutes with love is better than 1 hour with stress. Part 3. The day Daniel opened his mouth and faced his fear of speaking. The fear of speaking. Daniel was alone in his room one evening. He stood in front of the mirror, holding a hairbrush like a microphone. He looked into his own eyes and said, "Hi, how are you?" "Yes, I'm doing well." "Can I help you?" "Do you need anything else?" These were phrases he had practiced 100 times, but suddenly he paused. He thought to himself, "This is easy because no one is watching me. What will happen if I say this in front of someone? What if I say something wrong? What if they laugh?" His voice became smaller. His confidence dropped. He sat on his bed and stared at the floor. For 15 minutes, he didn't speak a word. His mind was full of fear. And then he remembered something. A line he had heard in one of the English podcasts he listened to every morning. You don't become brave before you act. You become brave because you acted. That was it. Daniel stood up and whispered, "Tomorrow I will speak English to someone. I don't care how small the sentence is, but I will do it." The first real conversation. The next morning, Daniel put on a clean shirt. He was not going to a job interview. He was not giving a speech. He was just going to buy bread. But today, something was different. Today, he had a mission. He walked to the corner bakery. There were 2 people ahead of him. His heart was beating faster. He felt sweat on his hands. He remembered the phrase he had practiced. "Hi, can I get a small brown bread, please?" Finally, it was his turn. The woman behind the counter smiled and said, "Next, please." Daniel looked at her. His heart was screaming. His head was shaking. But his mouth spoke. "Hi, can I get a small brown bread, please?" There was a pause. The woman nodded and smiled. "Sure, anything else?" Daniel smiled back. "No, that's all. Thank you." She gave him the bread. $1. He paid, took the bread, and walked outside. For a moment, he stood still on the sidewalk. Then his eyes filled with tears. Not because it was sad, but because it was a moment of victory. For the first time in his life, Daniel had spoken English to a real person. The feeling after the first conversation. Daniel walked home slowly, holding the bread like a trophy. I spoke. I really spoke. And she understood me. And the world didn't end. He looked around. Everything was the same, but he was not the same. Something deep inside had changed. He no longer felt like a student. He felt like a speaker, even if it was just 2 sentences. That night, he wrote in his notebook, "Today, I spoke to someone in English. My voice was shaking, but I did it. And I will do it again tomorrow." The truth about speaking. Daniel realized something powerful. Speaking is not about being perfect. It's about being brave. He didn't use big words. He didn't impress anyone. He didn't speak fast. But he took the step that 90% of learners never take. He faced fear and opened his mouth anyway. Daniel's 5 golden rules for beginner speakers. Here's what Daniel wants every English learner to know, especially those afraid of speaking. 1. Speak before you're ready. You will never feel ready. Speak anyway. Confidence comes after, not before. 2. Start small. Don't try to speak for 10 minutes. Start with one sentence. How are you? Can I help you? 1 coffee, please. Small steps create big power. 3. Make mistakes proudly. You will make mistakes. It's okay. Say to yourself, if I make 100 mistakes, I'll also learn 100 things. 4. Practice with yourself. First, mirror practice is magic. Train your mouth. Say each sentence 5 to 10 times out loud. 5. Celebrate every win. Did you speak 1 sentence today? Clap for yourself. Write it down. Be proud. How Daniel's life started changing. After that day, Daniel made it a habit. 1 real sentence with 1 real person, every single day. Sometimes in a shop, sometimes with a stranger on the bus, sometimes even online in the comments. He was no longer hiding. He was living in English now, not just listening to it. And slowly, English stopped being a fear. It became a friend. Part 4. From words to feelings, speaking English from the heart. In the last part, Daniel faced his biggest fear. He spoke English out loud to another person, in public. It was not perfect. It was not fancy. But it was real, and it changed something inside him. Daniel now believed, I can speak. I will speak. I must speak. But now, a new challenge began. He was ready to go deeper. He didn't want to just say, 1 bread, please. How are you? He wanted to say things like, I'm nervous today. I feel proud of myself. I had a bad dream. I miss my old life. That's when he began his next journey, learning to speak English from the heart. Real English is emotional English. One day, Daniel listened to a podcast with a soft, gentle voice. The woman in the podcast said something he never forgot. You don't learn a language just to pass an exam. You learn a language to express your soul. Daniel paused the podcast. He whispered, express my soul? He looked at his notebook. It was full of phrases like, I'm hungry. What time is it? How much is this? These were useful, but they were not him. He wanted to say deeper things, the things in his mind, in his heart, in his life. Daniel creates a new practice, emotional sentences. That night, Daniel opened a new notebook. At the top, he wrote, how do I feel today? In English. He sat in silence for a moment. Then he slowly wrote, I feel a little tired, but I'm happy. Today, I spoke 1 sentence in English to a stranger. I was scared, but I did it. That makes me feel proud. He read it aloud, slowly. It felt strange. It felt new. But it also felt real. This was not just English. This was his life. In English. Mirror talk becomes heart talk. The next day, Daniel stood in front of the mirror. He didn't say, what's your name? Where do you live? He said, I feel nervous about tomorrow, but I know I'm improving. Even 1 small step is a big victory. He watched himself speak. He saw the emotion in his eyes. He heard the power in his voice. He smiled and said, I'm proud of you, Daniel. Then he whispered, thank you, English, for helping me talk to myself. He adds emotional English to everything. From that day, Daniel made a new rule. Every day, I will say 1 emotional sentence in English. Here's how he added emotional English into his life. During music, He looked up lyrics from his favorite songs. One line said, "I'm stronger than I've ever been." He repeated it 10 times, and it became his personal mantra. During stories, he watched small videos and paused when the characters said emotional things. "I miss my family. I'm scared to try. I believe in myself." He repeated these lines in the mirror. He felt the meaning. During quiet moments, sometimes while walking, he would say, "I feel peaceful today." Or, "I'm thinking too much, but I know it will pass." These were not complex sentences, but they were honest. Daniel turns his day into emotional English practice. He made it a daily habit. Here's what a full day looked like now. Morning. I feel a little sleepy, but I want to learn today. During work. I'm tired, but I'm proud that I'm trying. Lunch break. I feel lonely sometimes, but I know I'm growing. Nighttime. I'm thankful for this day. I learned, I lived, I spoke. These were not just sentences. These were his emotions in English. This changed everything. He stopped feeling like he was studying. He started feeling like he was healing. Why emotional English works so powerfully. Daniel began to understand something. When you speak about feelings, you remember the words longer. You connect English to your real life. You don't just learn, you transform. Because language is not only words. Language is emotion, connection, and truth. Daniel's 4 big lessons for beginners. Here's what Daniel now believes. 1. Speak simple, speak true. You don't need big vocabulary. Even a sentence like "I'm afraid" can be powerful because it's real. 2. Use English to talk to yourself. English is not just for others, it's for you. Talk to yourself in English. Encourage yourself. 3. Write your feelings in a diary. Write 2 to 3 sentences about how you feel. No rules, no pressure. Just truth. 4. Practice emotion, not just information. Don't just say, "The car is red." Say, I love this car. It reminds me of my childhood." Add your feelings to every sentence. From student to soul speaker. Daniel now felt something deep inside. I'm not just a learner. I'm a human using English to express who I am. He didn't worry about grammar. He didn't worry about big words, because his goal was not to sound smart. His goal was to sound real. And day by day, his mouth became honest. His English became alive. Part 5. The day Daniel found a partner and stopped feeling alone in his English journey. In Part 4, Daniel discovered the most important thing so far. English is not just about facts. It's about feelings. He started speaking from his heart. He told the mirror how he felt. He used simple emotional English like, "I feel proud. I'm tired, but I'm trying. I'm scared, but I won't stop." And it changed how he saw English. But even after all this, something still felt missing. Daniel had no one to speak English with. He was brave. He was honest. But he was also alone. And that was about to change. The loneliness of a silent learner. Daniel was doing everything right. He listened to English every day. He wrote emotional sentences. He spoke to himself in the mirror. But still, when he looked around, no one else was doing the same. He felt like the only person in his city trying to speak English this way. One day, after writing in his diary, Daniel sat on his bed and whispered, "It's hard to grow when you're growing alone." He didn't want to feel like this anymore. He needed a person, not a teacher, not a grammar book, just someone who also wanted to learn, someone like him. How he found his speaking partner. Daniel had never used the internet to connect with others, but that day he did something new. He opened a public English practice group online, a group where people all around the world try to learn English together. He didn't post anything big. He just typed, "Hi, I'm Daniel. I'm learning English and trying to speak a little every day. If anyone wants to practice simple English with me, just say hello." He clicked post and closed the app. He didn't expect anything, but 1 hour later, he had 3 replies, and one of them said, "Hi, Daniel. I'm Emma. I also practice every day. I'd love to speak with you. Let's help each other. No pressure, just progress." The first video call. Daniel and Emma decided to try a 10-minute call. They were both nervous. Daniel's heart was racing. He had never spoken English like this, not with someone new, not on camera. But when he saw Emma's kind smile, his fear became smaller. Emma waved and said, "Hi, Daniel. I'm happy to talk with you." Daniel smiled and said, "Hi, Emma. I'm happy to." They laughed. They both made mistakes. They both forgot words. They both said, "Wait, what's the word again?" But they kept going. They spoke about small things. What did you eat today? What is your job? What music do you like? It was not perfect, but it was real. When the call ended, Daniel looked at himself in the screen and whispered, "This is the best English class of my life." Daily speaking becomes daily confidence. Daniel and Emma decided to talk for 10 minutes every day. And slowly, something amazing began to happen. Daniel stopped feeling scared. He started speaking more freely. He made fewer mistakes. Not because he studied grammar, but because he used English every day. They created a small plan together. The 5-day conversation plan. Day 1. Talk about your daily routine. I wake up at 7, I eat breakfast, I go to work. Day 2. Share your childhood memory. When I was 10, I loved to play with my dog. Day 3. Talk about your dream. One day, I want to visit another country. Day 4. Describe your emotions. Today, I feel nervous, but proud. Day 5. Give each other feedback. You said this really well. Next time, try this sentence. Every week, they followed this pattern. They repeated the same topics again, but used new words. And the best part? They started thinking in English. Together. Why speaking with a partner works so powerfully. Daniel realized a truth that changed him. Learning alone makes you strong, but learning together makes you unstoppable. Here's why. 1. You don't feel judged. With Emma, he didn't feel stupid. They were both learners. They helped each other, not corrected each other. 2. You keep showing up. Some days Daniel was lazy, but Emma would say, "Come on, let's talk for 5 minutes." So he showed up, and he improved. 3. You hear your mistakes. When Daniel heard Emma speak, he learned, "Oh, she said it that way. That sounds better." He learned naturally, not from rules, but from real use. 4. You build friendship. Soon, they weren't just practice partners. They became real friends. They laughed. They shared stories. They even cried on some days, because English had become their bridge. Daniel's new identity. Now when Daniel looked in the mirror, he no longer said, "I'm learning English." He said, "I'm living in English." English is how I connect. It's how I grow. It's how I speak to the world and myself. He wasn't perfect. He still made mistakes. But he was free, because now English wasn't something he had to learn. It was a part of his life, a part of his heart, a part of his voice. Part 6. The day Daniel became a guide and realized how far he had come. In the last part, Daniel found something that changed everything. A language partner named Emma. Speaking daily with her helped Daniel stop feeling afraid and alone. He practiced real English, not grammar rules, but daily life. He made mistakes, but he also made progress. Day by day, English stopped being a subject. It became his voice, his connection, his freedom. But what Daniel didn't know was, his journey wasn't just changing his life. Soon, it would change someone else's too. 1 year later, a new life begins. It had been 1 year since Daniel started his journey. He still lived in the same city. He still had the same job, but he was not the same person anymore. Old Daniel versus new Daniel. Old Daniel. Scared to speak, felt ashamed, thought English was not for people like me. New Daniel. Confident to try. Shared ideas with people worldwide. Spoke from the heart. In English. One message that changed everything. One evening, Daniel received a message from someone in the same English learning group. Hi, Daniel. I've been watching your practice videos for months. I'm a total beginner, but when I see you speak with confidence, I feel hope. Can you help me start? The message was from a 19-year-old boy named Leo. He reminded Daniel of his old self, shy, scared, and full of self-doubt. Daniel didn't hesitate. He replied, "Of course. I've been there. Let's start." Daniel becomes the mirror for others. On the first call with Leo, Daniel saw a familiar look, nervous hands, slow speech, eyes searching for words. Leo said, "Sorry if I make mistake." Daniel smiled and replied, "Don't say sorry. Say thank you to yourself for trying." And just like that, Daniel became a guide, not a teacher, not a grammar expert, just a human who had walked the path. How Daniel helped Leo start. Daniel shared everything he learned over the past year. 1. Invite English into your life. Don't force it. He told Leo, start small, change your phone language, listen to 5 minutes of English while brushing your teeth. Make it part of your life, not your stress. 2. Use English for emotions, not just instructions. He told Leo, speak what you feel. Say, I'm scared. Say, I'm excited. Feel English. Don't just use it. 3. Talk to yourself without shame. He said, use the mirror. Look into your own eyes. Say one honest sentence a day. This is how confidence begins. 4. Find a partner who feels safe. Daniel said, Emma helped me. Now I want to help you. One day, you'll help someone too. Leo begins to grow. Slowly, bravely, honestly. Weeks passed. Leo started writing short diary entries in English. He sent short voice messages. He joined small group calls. He began to smile while speaking. And every time he said something simple like, I feel better now, Daniel felt tears in his eyes. Because those simple words were not just English. They were proof of courage. Daniel learns the greatest lesson of all. One night, after a long call, Daniel sat alone on his balcony. He thought about everything. The delivery job. The frozen moment when he couldn't answer in English. The first podcast. The mirror talks. The call with Emma. Leo's nervous, hello. He looked up at the sky and said, I thought I was learning English. But really, I was learning who I am. English didn't just open his mouth. It opened his heart. It gave him a way to love himself. It gave him a way to connect, grow, and guide. If Daniel could talk to your viewers, this is what he would say. You don't need perfect grammar. You don't need a big vocabulary. You don't need to be born in an English-speaking country. You just need one decision. To make English part of your daily life. Not as a subject, not as a scary exam, but as a friend. Speak it, feel it, Live with it. Talk to yourself. Make mistakes. Talk again. And help someone else when you're ready. Because one day, you'll wake up and realize you're not learning English anymore. You're living in it. And that is the real fluency. Daniel's story ends here. But your story begins now. Just like Daniel, you can start today. Even if it's just one word, one sentence, one small try. That's enough. Because when English becomes part of your life, your whole life begins to change. If this story touched your heart and gave you hope, please like the video, subscribe for more real stories, and share it with someone who needs courage today. God bless you, and never stop speaking.